Hi everybody, how are you today? I'm Lynn Smith and this is our every Tuesday Coach-a-thon, which is why I'm here talking to you today, because in case you hadn't noticed, it hasn't been an every Tuesday thing. So I wanted to talk to you about that. As I was sitting here this morning thinking about what I wanted to say, I realized that now that I'm standing here in front of you, I don't know what to say. I don't know where to start. Let me start with how the Coach-a-thons came about, and then I'll talk to you about why I have been not showing up consistently for those. Janine, hey, thank you. Thanks for being here. It's nice to see you. Everybody say hi as you come on in, and sharing out is always appreciated. So what I am talking about today is my reason for doing these Coach-a-thons. And Janine, thanks for inviting followers. I'm getting tongue-tied today. I'm starting to feel tired, and I'll tell you why that is in a minute. I am part of the Perry 10K, and we do our weekly share-a-thons, which are always a lot of fun, and I love doing those. And you think about like a Perry train. And I got the idea back in January about doing a weekly live stream specifically for people like me, work-at-home women coaches and healers, because we've got a lot of common ground. There are a lot of challenges that we all face that are the same, and there are a lot of things that we need to be working on consistently, like our marketing. So there's a lot of common ground there, and I thought it would be a lot of fun to every week address an issue that is common ground for all of us, and talk about how we can get better on that issue. And I decided to roll this out in January, and in fact it didn't even take me long to come up with a bunch of topics that I wanted to discuss. And I also thought it would be fun to occasionally do some tapping. I'm a certified tapper, EFT, and I have done tapping live streams on Facebook, and they have been well received. And I just haven't done that in this platform yet. And one of the things that I do when I do the live streams that have tapping is I will create a tapping script specifically for that topic that I want to use in my live stream. And that way, for those that really enjoyed the tapping, they can just message me and I share the script with them. So that's something that I will do at one point. I did one in particular on Facebook that was well received. It was on procrastination. Who doesn't have issues with that, whether in your personal life or in your business or both? Okay. But now, let me talk about, sometimes we roll out ideas and life gets in the way, and I started rolling out this weekly live stream in January, and life started getting in the way. So I think this is where I'm going to backtrack to October and give you the background and talk to you about what's been, I think I keep hitting my mic, let me move it. What's been, oh, you do EFT too, awesome. But I create a lot of my own scripts. I don't know if you probably do the same thing, but it's always fun to come up with a topic and then just let your intuition guide you on what you should say. And when I do that kind of thing, as opposed to with clients, when I'm doing a live stream, I like to capture that. I like to get it all on paper, so that whoever's listening, if they really resonated with that, they've got a hard copy of it. So anyway, getting back to now where the inconsistency has come in showing up regularly. Back in October, my mom was diagnosed with AFib, which means that now both of my parents have some kind of heart issue. And as I was learning more about AFib, I came to realize that a lot of what I have been experiencing on a physical level lately that I have been ignoring. Because we do that. As women, we take care of everybody else, but when something comes up for us, it'll go away. I realized that these issues that I was having with a racing heart is actually an AFib symptom. Wake up and smell the coffee, Lynn. Maybe something's not right, especially now that both of your parents have got heart issues. So I had an upcoming appointment in January, my semi-annual appointment with my hormonal specialist, somebody that I really love and trust. So I thought, well, I'll wait until January and I'll talk to him about it and see what he has to say about it. And the first words out of his mouth, you need a cardiologist. So I kind of expected that, because the more I was learning about AFib, the more I was realizing that everything that I had been putting on ignore could actually be symptoms of AFib and something that I should not ignore. And so he set me up with a cardiologist. His office actually made the appointment for me, somebody that he recommended. But meanwhile, I continued to get these episodes of heart palpitations. And they have been sucking a lot of time. Yesterday, I only had 2 things on my calendar that I wanted to get done. One was to finish an email to send to my newsletter community, inviting them into my 4-month one-on-one program. And the other was participating in yesterday's Perry 10K Share-a-thon. And I thought the morning was progressing, and I thought, well, let me get this email done before it's time for the Share-a-thon, get that out of the way. Sat down at my desk to finish it, and it really wasn't even going to take very much time, and I started getting the palpitations again. And as it was getting closer to the time of the Share-a-thon, they were intensifying. And I lost a chunk of my day yesterday. Actually, it was just a chunk of my afternoon. But 2 weeks ago, it was 2 weeks ago, I know, because I did an EKG. I'll get back to that in a minute. 2 weeks ago, it was 2 hours before my scheduled weekly coach-a-thon, I started getting heart palpitations. And that episode lasted 6 hours. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, before they finally stopped. And then, when you go through something like that, when your heart's beating at 140 some beats a minute, it's exhausting. I ended up losing that whole day. And it's been difficult to be consistent with all the goals that yes, Gary, for sure, all the goals that I have set for myself when I have to basically just shut down when these things happen. Now, let me fast forward. I went to see the cardiologist that my doctor recommended, and he was talking about the complication of trying to catch these palpitations, because without actually having a recording of these palpitations, it can't really be identified, it can't really be diagnosed, and therefore there's no way of treating it. So he talked about a couple of options. One that, hey, thank you, YHY, for joining. He talked about a couple of options, and one of them involved a scalpel. Cutting into me and putting in a heart monitor, and then cutting into me 30 days later and looking at all the data. But then he talked about another option. And personally, I don't like scalpels. I will do anything else except something invasive like that. Darcy, it's so good to see you. I haven't live streamed in a while. It's nice to have you here. He talked about another option. There is an app that can be used in conjunction with this little recording piece that you buy that you can actually do on-the-spot EKGs. And my doctor encouraged me along those lines, because you keep on trying to capture something, and just because you've got this net laid out for it doesn't mean it's going to walk through it while you're ready and waiting. I have to be ready and waiting for it. So I bought the little device, and it's just this tiny little thing. You just lay it next to your phone, you open the app, and within 2 days, hi Darcy, I always like having you show up. You're like my shadow. You always know when I'm going live. Within just a couple of days of getting the device, I started having palpitations again. And within just a 24, 26-hour period, I had 5 EKGs for him. Isn't technology amazing? I can just open an app on my iPhone and get this 30-second snippet of an EKG. So at that point, I called my cardiologist, because now we had data. Now we know what we're looking at. And I scheduled the next available with him, and by the time I had my next available with him, I had 8 EKGs to share with him. So I had my follow-up appointment with him on Thursday, and I went in there expecting I am now going to be on the other side of this, expecting I am now going to get this diagnosis of AFib, and I already know the treatments for AFib. Most of the time, a drug will work. And if that doesn't work, well, then you're looking at a scalpel again. But for most cases, a drug works, and a drug worked for my mom. See, what AFib is the upper part of your heart is doing its own thing, and the lower part of your heart is doing its own thing, and they're not dancing together. And that's what causes the palpitations. The palpitations are actually a symptom of my heart misfiring. And there are many drugs on the market right now that will get your heart firing right, and then therefore no palpitations. And I have been living with this for a Katia, oh hi! I bailed on the live stream yesterday, or the Share-a-thon yesterday. I felt really bad about that. So here I am today talking about why I have been inconsistent with my live streams. So I'm talking about the appointment that I had with my cardiologist on Thursday. So emotionally, I went in there expecting I'm going to get on the other side of this. Expecting I'm going to get that diagnosis of AFib, I'm going to get a drug, and just like my mom, that pill is going to take care of all of my symptoms, and I'm going to be just fine, and I'm not going to be needing 10 hours of sleep every night either, because that's been where I've been in my life right now, and that is also a symptom of the AFib. With the heart misfiring, it makes you tired. Well, That's not how my day went. It started out with him realizing that I had downloaded the app and he had all these EKGs to look at. Red Rose, hi, thanks for being here. I'm glad that you were able to show up. He was excited about having all these EKGs to look at, all the things I captured in my iPhone. And then he's so funny too, because he's like a kid in a candy store. Oh, look at this, oh, nice. I don't think it's nice that my heart's misfiring, but I appreciate what you say. So he said, yes, you definitely have got some AFib going on here. But he wasn't going to give me the drug for it. He wants me to see a cardiologist that specializes in AFib and types of misfiring like that. So I now have a new term in my vocabulary, a cardiac electrophysiologist. That's who I'm going to see. So I was already feeling the disappointment of not being on the other side of this. And then as he's talking about my EKGs, he says, but we've got something else going on here. And by now I'm going, hold up, what do you mean? I'll take a look at you later, Red Rose, thank you. I was like, what do you mean? And he says, and to be honest, I got to a point in his office where my brain just stopped hearing words. I could not process anymore, and I'm still trying to piece together all the stuff he was telling me, but he said, there's something else going on here with your EKG that is making you at a higher than average risk for stroke. And at this point, it was like all the air got sucked out of the room. It's like, what? I expected AFib. I expected a pill for it. I expected to walk out feeling better. And I was already put off with treating the AFib because now I need an electrocardiogram at the end of this month. And I don't even see the cardiac electrophysiologist until April 12th. So now I'm still living with this crap. Then he tells me that I've got this higher than average risk for stroke. And I'm trying to hear this, I'm trying to comprehend it. And it was obviously something really important because he spent more time talking about that than he did about the AFib. And a couple of times he was saying, I'm going to keep repeating myself. I need to know you are hearing my words. And then he also said, as your cardiologist, I need to know you understand what I am telling you when you walk out the door. And I'm trying to absorb that and say, okay. And the upside of that, it is likely that a low-dose aspirin a day will be enough to reduce my risk for stroke. Okay, I started doing that. I'm not worried about stroking out tomorrow anymore. But I'm kind of pondering that, like, what the hell? And I flat out asked him, if I get the AFib under control, will that take care of the risk of the stroke? He said, no, these are unrelated. Like, okay, I'm absorbing. I said, okay, this is not what I expected to hear. I'm not walking out of here with a solution for these palpitations. That's going to be further out than I expected. Robert Scher, thank you for joining me. It's nice that you're here. But then there was more. The first time that I was in, he wanted me to do this imaging. It's a calcium imaging thing. Because of the fact that both my parents have got heart issues, he said this imaging is going to give us an overall look at your heart health. He says for him it was more of a standard operating procedure because both my parents have got heart issues. It wasn't necessarily meant to diagnose the AFib. It was just, trying to get a bigger picture of my heart health. Well, we went over the results of that, and that came up abnormal. There is some buildup in my arteries. And to be honest, the minute he said, but wait, we've got something else, I'm like, what the fuck? Don't talk to me anymore. I can't even absorb this anymore. And what I got from that is that first off, he kept telling me this, for somebody as young as you, I'll be 55 on Thursday. For somebody as young as you should have no buildup in there, and this test is showing us that there's some slight buildup. He says it's so slight, but there shouldn't be any for somebody your age. So as I'm trying to ask questions and I'm trying to hear what he's saying, because by now I feel like I have been run over by a train, I'm coming to understand that while this is just an indicator of my overall health, it's nothing that I'm going to drop dead from tomorrow. Like, okay, all right. And then just like a late night infomercial. Wait, there's more. It turned out the diagnostic for checking, the calcium buildup and the arteries and stuff, okay, they also got an image of my aorta. Now, my doctor was quick to tell me that the diagnostic I had done was not specifically meant to map out the aorta. It's just something they happened to have captured on image. Well, it turns out that my aorta is a bit enlarged. So now not only did I go through the emotional upheaval of not having a solution to my problem and still dealing with these heart palpitations that sometimes waylay me for 6 hours at a time, I've got all this other crap going on too. I was not prepared to hear that. And I spent some, and to be honest, it took me a while. By now, my head is just spinning. I could not even physically hear his words anymore because I didn't expect all this other stuff. I expected a diagnosis of what my mother has. I expected a prescription that would take care of the problem, just like with my mother. And that's not what I got. And now I'm still living with this. And he did propose a prescription for me. He put me on some heart medicine that I came to find out is actually used for high blood pressure. But it's not playing well with me. And it's not a drug that will assist my heart in firing correctly. I have to wait till after the echocardiogram, and I have to wait for my appointment with the cardiac electrophysiologist to get that. He said that the electrophysiologist deals with a totally different class of drug than he does, and the electrocardiogram will give him more data to understand where my heart is misfiring, and then I can get the appropriate medicine. And so what he gave me is something that slows my heart rate down. And basically what it's going to do is when I get the heart palpitations, it's going to keep them from getting so extreme. And actually yesterday was the first episode I had since I started this medicine. I started this on Thursday. And yeah, it kept me from going all the way up to the 140s, but I was still up in the 120s, which is at that level of it's hard to function. It's hard to sit at your computer and write out a promo. It's hard to talk on a live stream when your heart is at that rate. And what's I'm living with too with this drug, and it's going to be 5 weeks tomorrow before I get a change prescription, is that for a while there when I was first on it, I felt like I was going through the world in slow motion. I felt like everything about me was slowing down, not just my heart, my ability to process, like I was hearing things slower. I felt like I was walking slower. And in fact, that night as I was laying in bed after I took my first dose, because I'm supposed to take them 12 hours apart, so I waited until evening, like 7:30, because 7:30 is when I'm taking them. So I took it, and then I went to bed later, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm feeling, my heart's not the way it's supposed to be. And this was so funny. What came up for me is an old Saturday Night Live skit going back a long time ago, and I'm not even sure what character played this. I think it may have been Garrett Morris. They did this skit where they were introducing a new superhero, and this guy bounds into the room as a superhero, except he's not really bounding. He's like moving in slow motion because he's Lewd Man. And they did this spoof of a super character called Lewd Man, who lives on Quaaludes and therefore is functioning in slow motion. And I was laying in bed that night, and I kind of laughed to myself like, I feel like Lewd Man, like everything is in slow motion. And by Friday, I finally felt like I was coming out of that, but I'm still in this thing where, first off, I tire easy. Like Friday, mid-afternoon, I wanted to go to bed and take a nap, and I had slept 10 hours the night before. And even today, this morning, I was fine, but as I was getting set up for this live stream, it's like, I'm starting to get tired. And I've got another 5 weeks of this, because it's 5 weeks from tomorrow before I can change my prescription, before I can actually start taking something that addresses, correcting how my heart is misfiring. And so my whole real purpose for being here today is to apologize for not showing up on a weekly basis, because it's like right after I decided to do these live streams on a weekly basis, everything fell out from under me. But, I promise I'm going to get back to doing them regularly, and because I want to. I haven't heard Quaaludes in 25 years. Well, I'm showing my age. That's how long I've been watching SNL. And yeah, I think the most recent reference we had to Quaaludes was in The Wolf of Wall Street. Remember that amazing episode when Leonardo DiCaprio was driving his car and he gets out of it thinking everything's fine, and then he's falling out of it? That was funny. But that's where I am right now. And I am going to try and show up consistently because I want to. But I'm also at this place where I'm realizing that my self-care needs space. And up until recently, when I had to give my self-care that space, I was kind of beating myself up for it. Like, oh, I didn't get done what I was supposed to get done today. And oh, I didn't do that live stream because I just didn't have the energy for it. And yesterday, when I had, those palpitations again, I think it may have been the first time that I realized, no, just give yourself that space. If you send out that email to, Tuesday instead of Monday, the world's not going to come crashing down. Yeah, do what you can. And yeah, but as women, we struggle with this perfectionism, and we think that, we can do everything without tiring, that we're super women. And when we don't show up for everybody and everything, we feel bad about it. And then we end up not showing up for ourselves. Because when we're giving to everybody and giving to everybody, we're not giving to ourselves. And in fact, this was part of what I was going to talk about when I was doing yesterday's Perry 10K Share-a-thon. I think, what was the word languaging of the topic? The hardest thing I ever overcame. And I came to realize the hardest thing that I need to overcome is something I haven't overcome yet. And that's, showing up for myself. And that I was going to make that my topic yesterday, then I ended up not even being able to show up for it. So I don't know, maybe I'll do a live stream on that another time. But yeah, I'm realizing that I need to take a closer look at showing up for myself first. And I'm at this place where I need to be my own advocate. When the cardiologist first said, I want to put a heart monitor in you, and it involved a scalpel, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. And in the last month, I've actually said that to healthcare professionals twice. No, I'm not doing that. And when you say that, you get that deer in the headlights look like, what do you mean you're not going to do that? But I now have to show up for me. I show up for my family. I show up for my clients. And, and let me tell you, this is part of what I was going to talk about yesterday. When we are showing up for everybody else, sometimes that's not always easy. And working with clients, some days we get up in the morning and we just don't want to have to show up for our clients because showing up takes energy. Showing up is hard. And I've had days where I wake up in the morning and maybe I'm not feeling well, or maybe I just didn't sleep well, and I'm thinking, damn, I've got clients today and I don't have the energy to show up for them. So I spent a lot of time praying, God, help me show up for this client. I love this client. She needs help with this. I want to show up for her. But for those of us that work with clients, you probably understand what I'm saying. Sometimes it's hard to show up. And it's hard to show up for our marketing. It's been hard for me to show up for my live streams. But I'm at this place now where I realize I have to start showing up for me. And showing up for me means if I'm having palpitations, at least for the next 5 weeks, I have to give that space. If I go into these palpitations and, they're not going away, I need to give myself the space for that. Sometimes they come and go pretty quickly, an hour or two, and sometimes they don't. And the longer I have them, the more tired I am after they're done. Like 2 weeks ago today, when I had that 6-hour episode, I was exhausted by the time it was over. And I'm at this place where I realize I have to give myself the space and I have to step up and take care of me. But I also, so much of what I do, I have fun doing. It lights me up. I love doing our Perry 10K Share-a-thons. They're a blast. I love working with my clients, but, I just have to acknowledge that some days I just don't have the energy for that. Because, doing client calls, that takes a certain kind of energy to show up for your clients. Marketing takes another kind of energy. It takes a lot of energy to keep putting yourself out there over and over and over again. And sometimes we just don't have that energy. And yesterday was actually really good for me because I gave myself that space without feeling guilty about it. And I gave myself that space without feeling bad about it. By just purely acknowledging this is what I need. These things are going to have to go on hold. And, I'm going to do better. I'm going to get a more accurate diagnosis once I have that echocardiogram. And I have a specialist now. It was kind of weird, though, that my specialist was referring me to a specialist. That can't really be a good sign, right? But I absorbed everything that happened for me on Thursday when I felt like, the ground just opened up below me. And I'm realizing I'm going to be okay. But I'm also realizing that there are going to be days that I just have to slow down. And that's what I'm going to do. So I thank you all for showing up for this today. I will do my best to be here next week. Last week's coach-a-thon that I scheduled for Tuesday, my topic was going to be, up until I started getting heart palpitations, my topic was going to be, is perfectionism killing your marketing? So that's what I want to focus on next week. So I shall hope for the best. I shall hope to be back next Tuesday. And I thank you, everybody, for being here and for sharing and for commenting. And I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday. If you work at home, woman, coach, or healer, join me next Tuesday. We'll talk about perfectionism and marketing. Thank you all for being here. Bye, everybody.